Lyell Centre at Heriot-Watt University it sits on a campus in the west of Edinburgh, and it is the Lyell Centre for Earth and Marine Sciences. So we are working right at the interface between anything that is happening subsurface and of course in the marine environment. So a lot of the research is really on carbon cycling. So from a subsurface perspective, we are looking at storing CO2, maybe producing geothermal as a renewable source of energy. We are working in terms of earth sciences, more in subsurface, low carbon energy technologies.
So one of the biggest environmental challenges of our time, if not the biggest, is climate change. So there are different ways in which to tackle that challenge, one of which is through this energy transition. So that is moving away from fossil fuel-based technologies to that of low carbon renewable energy technologies, things like geothermal energy, for example. So it's understanding how the subsurface can play a part in that energy transition.
The research I do is all about looking at the energy transition and making sure that can be done in a safe and sustainable way. So often looking at gas release or leakage from old oil and gas wells, and we're looking at the risk that old oil and gas wells pose to carbon capture and storage sites. Very much the work is about enabling the energy transition to low carbon and carbon storage technologies through understanding the science and then being able to make an intelligent and systematic way of evaluating environmental risks to minimize and reduce those risks.
So the intention is to characterize how certain types of rocks behave under different stress conditions, and they are rocks that we are looking to store carbon dioxide in, we're looking to extract geothermal energy from, and also I am interested in tectonic earthquakes. So how earthquakes occur, why they occur, where they occur, and if we can understand a bit more about how earthquakes can lead to other kinds of risks like volcanic risk or tsunami risk.
The Lyell Centre is kind of set up to remain flexible. So when the ground challenges are changing, then there's always room for changing the outfit of the Lyell Centre and maybe including a new area of research. To bridge that from the research we are doing to the industry application, we of course also need the industry angle, right? So they define the problems and they help us to put things into the perspective that is relevant.
At the end of the day, a lot of the technologies and solutions that we're working on need to be implemented by industry. So without working with industry, we can't really move forward at the pace we need to anyway. I work a lot on rock mechanics and geomechanics. So this sometimes falls between the cracks of geology and engineering, but it's very important. So specifically, I want to know why, how, and when rocks break, because this has big impacts on how fluid can flow underground in the subsurface and the deep subsurface, and it impacts things like how injected carbon dioxide will flow in the subsurface when you try to store it, or how hot water moves through the subsurface when you try and extract it to use for heat and power.
And we have quite a few international collaborations, so we're working with a Brazilian company to understand about carbon storage and different types of rocks with very complex pore structures, to try and understand and characterize the pore structures so that we can monitor and understand what is going on in the reservoir before we even think about trying to inject carbon or hydrogen.
Got a collaboration with the British Columbia Energy Regulator in Canada, and what we've actually done is set up a living laboratory in the field. So they have some very interesting case studies of gas leakage in the soils and the subsurface.
Increased advantage with the Lyell Centre to do research-led teaching, which is important. So, I mean, you can, of course, teach the students all the fundamentals, but you also need to teach them what the fundamentals are relevant for. And the best way of doing that is to bringing the fundamentals into real-world industry projects, for which we are then also bringing in people from industry to explain the industry projects and make these courses very applied.
Here in the Lyell Centre, we've got one foot forward where we're already all together, we're all talking, we're all discussing and learning about each other's research, and I think this is going to be the future model. But here we are up and running, and I guess we've got a head start on this type of model and you know, onwards and upwards.